So in the last part of the series, I guess, I ended up trying to think back. It's been a little while now. So I did the final hang, shaping of the handle, and hung it. That's been a few weeks ago now. This has kind of just been sitting on the bench, getting a little dusty while some other projects were happening. But I think it's time to work out a sheath for this. I know I kind of asked you guys what you thought, and there's a couple people that said they didn't think the sheath kind of added a significant amount of increase to the price of whenever we're selling it, and I kind of agree. I'm going to make one. Let's start off there, but I don't think it's really going to change the price of what I'm going to get for this when I go to sell it. I don't think it'll change it at all. But I do, always need practice making them because I am not an expert leather worker. So the practice is always good. I have the leather, I have all the materials here, so it's not really any extra costs to me, just a little bit more time. And I do like the idea of kind of selling a complete package, that if someone wants to buy this axe as a gift, or for a user themselves, they're just starting to get into collecting as a hobby. They've got something that they can take out into the woods that has a protected edge. It doesn't have one of the little rubber edge guides or covers, which don't really work. So yeah, it's something that's actually going to protect yourself from getting bit by the bit. So looking around the shop, obviously this is a Connecticut pattern. One of the last builds I did was the high test, which is a Tasmanian pattern. Actually got it sitting on the bench right here too. So you can see the size of the bits is, really roughly pretty close to the same. So that got me thinking maybe the sheath for the high test would fit this pretty nicely. In the high test video, I did make a sheath, and this is it. And it actually fits pretty good. Obviously, that high test, that being a Tasmanian pattern, is a much wider profile bit. So this is a little bit loose because it doesn't need nearly as much, width in there. But it fits. So thankfully, when I had made the high test, I had made the patterns for the sheath, and kept them. So I think I'm just going to use those. I lied. I'm not doing that. I'm not using the template. I might use I don't know. I'm not gonna, because the bit profile of the high test is so much more rounded than this Flint edge. I'm just wasting a lot of space and a decent amount of leather too, because I can have a sheath that's fitting, like this, roughly, and have much less. I don't know. I'm gonna make one that actually fits it better. If I'm already making a sheath, there's no point in not making one that doesn't fit right. So, all right, I'm gonna get some cardboard and start making a template again. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So I started off with this piece, which had Usually had this piece in the center. So I traced my original bit. You know, the shape of the bit, which was here. Then I traced this whole pattern on a piece, and then I didn't need this flap because that's only for the back. So after I traced it, the part that's the flap is the back. I traced it again for my front. And once I had my front here, I cut out the center part, which left me with just the welt. And then the welt goes in between the front and the back flat piece. So we've got our pieces traced onto the leather. This is the same piece that I used for the high test sheath. I like how that came out. Kind of utilitarian looking. So I'm pretty sure I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I'm not under any delusions that making a sheath for this axe is really going to add a significant amount of value to it. Well, sorry. Guess there's a difference between price and value. I don't think it's going to drive the price up anymore, but I do think it'll be a nice package for whoever buys it. Like, it'll be usable right out of the box if they want to build a better leather sheath themselves or pay another maker to, you know, make a leather sheath for it. By all means, they can. If they want to do kydex, if they just want to hang it on their wall, whatever. You know, whatever they want to do with it once they buy it is completely up to them. But once they get it from me, it will be in a good state that they can do that. They can take it out in the field and use it. They can let it sit in their closet. Who knows? Hopefully not. I'd prefer if they used it. That's kind of the whole reason I fixed it up. But, you know, once it's theirs to do whatever they want with. So we've got our three pieces all cut out. You know, our back, our welt, and our front, all with the right show sides and the right orientation. This is just simple veg tan leather. There's nothing, you know, super fancy about it. Like I said, it'll be nice and durable, very utilitarian. It'll look nice with age too, as it kind of gains patina. I'm not going to bother staining it. I don't think I'm going to stitch this one either, just in the interest of time. I'd like to get this axe listed for sale sooner rather than later, just so someone's enjoying it and that's just sitting around in my shop with all the other axes. So, yeah. So at this point, I can pretty much trace where the welt is going to be. And you don't need to do this part. It just helps for me so I don't get as sloppy with the glue. If you're more skilled at it, by all means, you can skip tracing where you're putting your welt. I need all the help I can get coloring inside the line, so stack the odds in my favor. Yeah, so we've got our pieces. This was the next thing I should do. It's funny. So Ryan over at Lionhead Restorations or Big Life, depending on you know what channel you're kind of looking at, his YouTube channel. I'll link his down below. He just released a nice in-depth sheath building video, and in it he made the mistake of gluing it up prior to chamfering the edges or putting the edge beveler on it. And it was a mistake for him, but I always do it that way. And when he pointed it out, I was like, oh man, his order of operations makes way more sense. And his leatherwork is really nice. So if you're curious about it, definitely go check out his video on it. Much higher caliber than what this is going to be, but this will be good practice for me. So I will grab that edge beveler and I'll chamfer. I'm not going to do this kind of edge here or here because after I glue it up, I'm going to take it to the sander and kind of true up those lines. And then those will be easy enough to get with the edge beveler because it's like supported leather. The ones like in his video where he had trouble with it, same ones that I always struggle with how I usually do it, are the ones kind of like the unsupported leather on these edges. So I'll chamfer those now, or bevel them now. With with that new font. It was just funny when he said it. It's like a light went off. I was like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. And I'd been doing it wrong before. So if you can see, what it does is it just chamfers the edge of that leather a little bit. So when you go to burnish it, it kind of rolls over nicer. And I've said it in other sheath making videos, but I just use hardware store contact cement. I saw Ryan was also using contact cement. His was nice Angelus brand or whatever. This is like stuff used for laying down flooring. I also noticed that his was clear. This has definitely got like an amber color to it. So because his was like shoe cement or contact shoe cement or something like that, I'm sure it's probably better suited for leather working. But this has worked just fine. I think it was, I don't know, like $7 or $8 for this whole like pint of it. And it works, so no real complaints. It smells terrible. You can definitely tell it's a pretty potent stuff, but like I said, it holds like you wouldn't believe. And I haven't had any issues with it. I haven't really had any issues with it, and it's probably this will be like a lifetime supply for me at the rate that I actually make sheaths. So, if you notice, I liked tracing out the lines before where I've got where I need to put the glue, so I can figure out where that welt is gonna lay. You could eyeball it, and I'm sure you'd probably get pretty close. But for me, I'm trying to minimize the amount of extra glue I've got kind of like seeping out into the inside of the sheath. It will just harden up, but if I'm sliding the axe in and out for test fitting, I just try to avoid getting the glue on the bit. Then for this side, just slather it up. And pretty much by the time, give it a couple of minutes to kind of set up, get a little bit tacky. So you don't want it wet, but you also don't want it completely dried either. You want it like a good, like sticky note consistency, I guess. Like you poke the back of a Post-it note. Kind of sticks to your finger, but doesn't leave any residue. That kind of consistency seemed to work well for me, but your mileage might vary. All right, we'll let that set up for a little bit and come back. And I recommend while you're letting it set up, just cap up your glue. Save some brain cells. This is about where I like it. You can see, maybe you can't, it's kind of got a glossy look to it. Some of those darker spots, I laid it on a little thicker there. Those are probably still slightly wet, but that's fine. They will harden up just the same. So, kind of get one shot at this. Lay it on. Another reason why I like the layout lines. Helps me not mess this up as bad. Kind of lay that out. Make sure everything's kind of lined up and where I want it. As you gently lay it on there, you can kind of wiggle it into place just a little bit, but the more you kind of move it and shift it, and the more it sets in, the less you're going to be able to do with it. So once you press it down, so now I'm just going to kind of scuff up the surface a little bit. This is the smooth side of the leather that wasn't super smooth still, so give it a little bit more tooth. Let that contact cement kind of soak in a little better. Stanley 199, if you're curious. I've got them hanging on the back of the bench. I like using the 199 and the 299s. The 299 is a little bit smaller, but I know this has a sharper blade on it because I just sharpened it, so so I was grabbing this one. And if you're curious about the screwdriver, this was another find in a It Followed Me Home series. Looks like it's a Soul Bar. Yeah. PS and W Co. USA. Patent applied for. Yeah, this is one that I found down in Belkville. So it's a nice heavy one too. I like it. Enough rambling though. Alright, we're back. Everything's looking pretty tacky. It's all set up. So we're going to go for it. So you got a little bit of wiggle room before it really kind of like sets up, but not a ton. And this is one of the reasons why I like doing a generously sized welt. Is because I don't need to be as precise with, like, you see how those 3 layers? They don't line up, right? So I'm going to be able to take this to the belt sander and kind of even this out and get them to line up. And that won't be an issue. So just got my little Harbor Freight 1x30 here, and we're just going to true up those edges. Really just kind of clean them up. I put a little bit of white tape on my, not the platen, but the rest here, just to try to not dirty up the leather as much as possible, so we'll see if it helps. Alright, so you can see we evened up those, camera's focus, stay focused. We evened up those 3 pieces of leather. Looking pretty good. And one of the key things to do is if you're using a belt sander to kind of even this up, use a sharp belt. Try to use a fresh belt. This is a 180. I'd have probably been fine with like a sorry, my like little extra light cutout, but I'd probably been fine with like you know, probably like an 80 would have even been fine, but the key is it being sharp and not used on metal before, not used on a ton of wood, not really worn out, but like it's got good sharp grit to it. So, all right, bring it back over to the bench and get finished up here. All right, bring it back with a little better light, maybe. Yeah, so the 3 pieces are all evened up. Just use a sharp belt if you're using a belt sander with it. It helps a lot. So now we can go back and on that fresh edge that we just sanded, do our bevel again. And see how much nicer that cuts with a nice clean 90 there. So we've got our gum tragacanth. We'll yeah, call it gum tragacanth. Not sure on the pronunciation, but I just got it in an old baby food jar. We'll try burnishing this up. And I do have that little wheel on my, like sometimes chuck up into the drill press. I made it. It's not that great. It works all right, but I'm trying to just go by hand here. I think that burnished up nicely. It's not like glass smooth, but the leather was pretty rough to kind of start out, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to go around and get the other edges. I think it definitely worked better. One, I think hand burnishing was a lot more efficient than, surprisingly, more efficient than the wheel on the drill press. And 2, I think doing it prior to setting the rivets, or even drilling the holes for the rivets, was a good idea. So, yeah. All right, so we're all burnished up. The gum tragacanth, I think that's how I pronounce it, is still drying a bit. But I think we're fine to go and work on our rivet placement. Again, I think I'm going to go with 4 rivets here. I think that looks good for spacing. Just mark some spots to drill some holes. There looks good. And one of the things I got in the habit of, I think I've mentioned this before, is keeping the right size drill bit for the shank of these in with them. So I don't have to, 1, remember, 2, track it down, 3, hope I didn't break it, drilling out a wedge or something. So I've always got it handy. So drill our holes and then we'll set some rivets. So we've got our holes drilled. That's good. Now we can just punch our rivets through. So obviously these protrude a bit. Then what you do is grab your burrs. Then the burr goes over the shank of the rivet. And I've got my homemade rebar rivet setting tool. Probably a little more. There we go. That seems like it's set nicely. I'll just go around and do that for all of them. Grab our side cutters. And find something that is a metal anvil of sorts and pin these over. Alright, rivets are all set. Sheath is strong enough. Like I said, didn't do any stitching, just because I didn't. Moment of truth, we'll do it on camera, see how it fits. Hopefully it's good. If it's not, guess I gotta start over. Did all the measurements, so it should be good. Oh, I like that. That fits really nice. That feels real sturdy. Good fit up at the bottom under the beard there. No wiggle. So, but yeah, got a little knife point all here. And just punch where we want our hole. Let's say, I'm going to go right there. So we're through that and into that piece. These are little brass stud closures. I've got a screw. It's really just two pieces. These ones you don't need any special tools to put in. They're just a little screw. Punch a hole for the shank size of the screw in here. And I've written the sizes on here. So it's 1/8 for the shank size and 3/16 for the shank of the if you look here. So it's 3/16 for the shank size of the closure. I don't want to punch, this is how I do it, I don't want to punch the hole for the size of the top of the closure. I want to do it for the shank size, and then I'll cut a slit so it fits through. And I tested it out on some scrap pieces to kind of figure out where that sweet spot for the sizing was. There we go, we're through. And as far as that goes, you just got your threaded section of that screw poking through. You just thread that guy on there. Alright, then on this, where we marked our hole on the top part originally, my punch size was 3/16. So my punch size, 3/16. And then because that's not just going to fit right, it might fit if I forced it, but it's not just going to fit right over. and it wants to pull this way naturally. I'm not going to cut the slit on the bottom, I'm going to cut it on the top. So as it wants to pull open, it'll pull against that bottom part of the punch. So just take that and then this knife, chisel, something, and cut roughly a 1/4 inch about slit for that to open up. And that should allow that hole to open up enough to accept that stud. Alright, try it on the axe. Nice, works one-handed. Happy with that. I think it looks good, looks clean. Again, it's nothing too fancy. It's glued, so it's going to be real durable. Those rivets, rock solid. The stitching adds a little bit more strength too, but a lot more time. So that's going to be a very usable sheath. Can't pull it off. It's a little bit, but not much. So if you're bouncing around in the woods, back of the truck, it's not going to fall off. All right. So we're going to throw some neat's foot oil on that. And just apply a coat. Alright, so I thought I was going to have a little more time than I did before going back to work for a few days. So I did not end up getting the edge sharp. You can see here, it's still just the original edge on there. We did get the sheath finished up though. Got the sheath finished up. A little hard to do one-handed, but it's doable. It came out good. Glue set up nicely. The edge, that burnishing, that edge burnishing, everything came out nice. Yeah, that's the best, some of the best luck I've had with burnishing yet so far. I like the rivets. I like the look with the natural veg tan. It's looking a little dry right now, but I will probably throw another coat of neat's foot oil on it, or maybe some open offs. Yeah, so this part will just be, obviously you've already watched it all, but it'll just be the sheath making. And then I'll do another, hopefully the final part with the quick sharpening, and when I post it, now that it's a complete package. So got the handle that we shaped up. It's kind of got that interesting grain and coloring on that side, and just nice clean grain on this side too. So again, just textbook, perfect grain orientation for a handle for what you'd be looking for. So if you care about that, it's kind of neat. Getting sawdust all over everything, but yeah. So stay tuned. Appreciate you watching the build along here, I guess. Watch me build this out and watching the video. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.